Hey.
Oh, wow. Hi. That was like a stressed out, hey.
No.
Yeah, that's okay. Welcome, everybody, to another amazing week of Case Files with Kat.
And Ashley.
I have a new beer tonight.
Oh, yeah?
It doesn't happen often. Sometimes I go back to the old standbys. Yep, but today you're going to love the can art on this one. It is from Panther Island Brewing.
Oh.
Have you heard of them?
Yes.
This is
Sounds familiar. Sounds familiar.
This is a Texan beer. Hadn't heard of them before, but check out this can art.
I love it.
I feel like that's Ryan. It says IPFNA.
I love it. It's cool. I do like it.
It is a double IPA, but it's got a guy, a red beard and mustache and nice wavy hair, and he's got, what are those, brass knuckles?
Mm-hmm. That's what they look like.
Where it says IPFNA, which I think is just rad.
It looks really cool.
That's right. I said rad. Because I'm old.
We just lost every listener we've ever had.
I know. Even my father, who was 20 years older than my mom, would make fun of me in the 80s for saying rad and awesome. He just thought it was like funny. He was like, ugh, you kids with your words. And now my kids are like, you're so sus. Like,
What the hell does that mean?
Suspicious. Ooh, I'm teaching you something.
I'm never going to use that word, but okay, thank you very much.
That is from the game Among Us.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that is either, but okay.
Oh, wow. I feel like I am way up on you
I don't have
things.
children,
No.
and I'm super old, so I like to yell at people to get off my lawn and leave me the hell alone.
The girls at the chamber were trying to teach the president the word sus.
Mm.
I was like, please don't use that word. My 6 and 8-year-olds use that word. Please don't use that word.
Never going to use that word, so it's okay.
Don't be so sus. Anyway, how has your week been? What's up? What you got going on? You're at work.
Oh, same old, same old. Just trying to get a million things done at once. I am going out of town for 3 weeks in July, so, I picked a perfect time to leave town with all of the millions of things I have to do. So.
I see. For those of you at home, you can't see her, but she's got the proper messy bun going on to make sure it looks like she's frantically busy, and it works. It looks exactly like that.
I am frantically busy. I don't usually work during episodes or whatever, but it is what it is. I have like a cajillion things to do.
Well, so she's only going to be half listening to the episode.
Listening.
So
I'm here. I can't make a lot of sound because audio and everything. I'm sure our audio guy would just love that.
The audio guy. I'll tell him that you called him that.
I do call him that.
Anyway.
He's very fancy. He does things I don't comprehend.
He does do things that I don't comprehend all the time. He is not up for a regional Emmy this year. They said that his piece was actually meant for the national Emmys this year. Yeah, so
we have an
you're big time
winning, big time producer for the show.
I know.
We should start.
A 2-time regional Emmy winner. I feel like that's like.
That's
just as cool as it's going to get. All right. Anyway, if you're into space, let us know. We'll tell you where to go.
It's a very, well, I don't know. The ones I've seen have been really awesome.
Yeah. All right. So, listen, I have a lot to talk about, and I've got some audio to play, and I just kind of feel like we're going to talk a little bit more about this one because there's some interesting things going on. I learned about this when I was researching another episode earlier in this season, and so I put them in. I was like, I don't even know what this is about, but someone said this is a really good story to talk about. I know you love Disappearances, and this is still an unsolved disappearance, but so I did want to talk about the stories. They're two different stories, but they're connected.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to go with the one that happened the most recent.
Okay. I'm listening.
Because just cause. But anyway, I did get into this. Obviously, Discovery. Disappeared on ID Channel. This was one of their episodes. This has been on a lot of different things, but there were some pretty good podcasts I enjoyed listening to. There is a podcast called The Disappeared, and it's a pretty good podcast if you like that kind of stuff. He does a great job. He did a great 3-part series to this. Anyway, here we go. Okay, so today I am going to talk about the disappearances of Terrance Williams and Felipe Santos.
Oh,
2 different people.
I saw this on the sheet and I wanted to look it up so bad, but I was like, no, don't look it up before the episode.
Don't do it.
So I didn't.
So, okay, I'm going to start. I told you I was going to start with the one that happened the most recently. They only happened a few months apart, but this was sort of the way that information got into the public was because of the second case and then it being tied to the first. So it only got a little bit more coverage.
Okay.
Couldn't think of the word. It was like, but okay. So the first disappearance is second disappearance that happened was of Terrance Williams. He was born January 17th, 1976, just a few months older than me. And from Tennessee. He's from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Oh.
What's up, Tennessee? And he disappeared on January 12th, 2004. So he was 27. From Naples, Florida. So he's been missing about, what is that? 17 years?
I don't do math.
18 years? So. I don't do math.
I'm a communications major, yo.
I know, I probably should have done the math. Anyway, you guys get it. It was in 2004. Anyway, he was 5'8". He only weighed about 160 pounds, and he was, at the time, 27 years old, and he was a father to 4 babies, and he had recently moved to Florida to be near his mama, Marcia. And let me tell you about Marcia.
Yes,
Marcia is badass. If anybody was going to search for you, you would want Marcia to be on that team.
Well, I would definitely hope no one ever has to search for me, but you never know.
I know where to look. The pigsties.
Yeah.
Right. So the pigs ate her. The pigs ate her. All right, because people listened to your ideas. Anyway, so he had lived with his mom and his stepdad when he first moved from Tennessee into Naples, Florida. And one of the reasons that he did that was because he was falling behind on some child support stuff. He had spent some time in jail. He had some petty theft case, and he had like a DUI. There were some things that he wasn't like an angel.
Yeah.
But he did move to be close to his mom and to sort of get his life back on track. He was making a really good decision in doing that.
Yeah.
And when he moved in with his mom and his stepdad, he and his stepdad kind of didn't hit it off. I think he said, I am going to guess that the words, "while you're in my house, you do as I say," probably came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
He was 27. And so that's hard. You have 4 babies of your own, and someone's trying to treat you like a child.
Yeah.
Had he made childish decisions before? Yes. But he's not a child.
That's still hard to be told at that age. You don't. You don't want to listen to rules at any age, but especially that age.
And it's your stepdad, and that for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, ugh. Anyway, so he decides, the big man he is, decides to move out. And that's very mature for a decision, rather than stay in this sort of toxic household and to probably break his mother's heart that these two men that she loved did not get along. So he goes and finds a roommate, and his roommate is Jason Gonzalez.
Okay.
So because he had that DUI, he didn't have a license. All right. And so he depended on Mom, Marcia, and Jason and a few other friends to get him to and from work or to have like any kind of social life. He worked part-time at 2 different jobs so that he could send money to his kiddos. One was at the Pizza Hut. And
he sounds semi-responsible, at least, trying to get himself out of toxic situations, working to pay his child support.
He was trying. And, I was listening to an interview with Marcia. I think it was on NBC or ABC. And she was like, or maybe it was the CNN interview. Anyway, she said, he would call, we'd spend an hour on the phone, and then we'd hang up, and then he'd call me back just like right back to keep talking. Yeah. They had a very strong bond. And so we'll get into theories later, but and I know that someone's not going to just not call their mom if they were that close, or any other family member,
right, or
their own children. Or
especially if they had been like trying and making efforts.
Right. And so on this particular night, on January 12th, he was wanting to go to a co-worker's party.
Okay.
But Jason didn't want to go.
Okay.
His mom certainly wasn't going to drive him. And so he made the decision to take his car, which was this really old, like classic, like a boat, old white Cadillac that he had been working on to fix up. And it was looking really nice. Yeah. But it just like straight out of Goodfellas, super long, white interior, white exterior, just, a beautiful car if you're into those kinds of cars. So he says that on the evening, Jason says that he spoke to Terrance on the phone on the evening of Sunday, January 11th, before heading to bed. So he had spoken to Terrance, and Terrance was like, man, the cops are out in force tonight. And so there was a conversation of like, well, are you going to stay at the party, or are you going to try to make it home? I can't come and get you, but what are you going to do? And he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to risk it. I'm going to go ahead and drive home. So after that phone call, he did not have a valid driver's license. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he should not have been, the car wasn't registered or anything because he didn't have a driver's license. He can't own that. And so he so Jason hung up the phone thinking that he was probably going to stay the night at the party, and put it by the TV rather than on his nightstand right next to the bed. Mm-hmm. And so he did miss some calls from some numbers that night. He realized the next day when Terrance didn't make it home. And he called one of those numbers, and the number was of a girl at that house at that party. It was like, oh, he stayed for a while and then he left really, really early, like 5, 6 a.m. early. He didn't leave at 2 a.m. or whatever. And so he was like, huh, okay, well, he didn't come home. And so he decided that on the 13th, so a day later, January 12. So the 11th was the last time anybody really saw him.
Okay.
I guess any of his friends. And then on the 13th, he decides to email Marcia. I don't know why you email a mama. But he emails her and he's like, hey, I haven't seen your kid. And that.
Maybe he didn't have her number, you know? I don't know.
Oh my God.
Hey, Louie.
He somehow opened the door. All right. Anyway, so we emailed Marcia and said, hey, we can't find I haven't heard from your son. He didn't come home. And so she starts doing all the things, all the right things, right? She starts calling. She's calling everybody.
Yeah.
Call all of his cousins. He has a big family. Is he there with you? And, you know, all that kind of stuff. They start calling. She called her sister, his aunt. They start calling the hospitals. They're calling all the things. I mean, just exactly what you do if somebody doesn't make it home. So they called the police and they filed a missing persons report. But, you know, the police were like, well, he's 27.
Yeah.
Right? He can do what he wants. Right. But shortly afterwards, his aunt, because let me tell you about these women, they are going to knock some heads together to make some information come out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they were able to track down his Cadillac. And it was towed from the Naples Memorial Cemetery, like the Dignity Memorial, you know, just like out here on 45.
Yeah.
So it was towed from the cemetery for obstructing traffic. And I'm doing mad quotations with my fingers.
So his car was just randomly at a cemetery?
Yeah, no, not randomly. So the tow report was signed by Deputy Steve Caulkings of the Collier. What?
Sorry. Louis just did like this mad dash behind you and ran somewhere. And it was the funniest thing I've seen on camera. He just like darted out of nowhere and went back somewhere. Anyways, continue with your story. I'm sorry, but that's why I was laughing.
I don't know where I am. Oh, okay. The tow report, we're just cut that part out. The tow report was signed. This is serious. By Deputy Steve. Okay.
I'm sorry. Continue. I'm listening.
I
I'm
need
done.
to compose myself. All right. The tow report was signed by Deputy Steve Caulkings of the Collier County Sheriff's Department. So the family contacted the Sheriff's Department and discovered that Caulkings had filed neither an incident report nor an arrest. So that's that. Well, of course, there's no arrest report. So
investigators say Caulkins' story about meeting Terrance Williams here at the cemetery just doesn't add up. At one point, Caulkins said he pulled Terrance Williams' car over because it was having problems. But when he called his friend in dispatch, he reported the car had been abandoned. He never let on he'd had any contact with the driver, Terrance Williams.
I got a homie Cadillac on the side of the road here. Signal 11, signal 52, nobody around. Maybe he's out there in the cemetery. He'll come back and his car will be gone.
But if the driver was not around, how then was Deputy Caulkins able to run a background check using Terrance's name and birth date?
Last name? Williams. Common spelling. Date of birth? 4. Whoopin'. 75. Like now.
Yet just 4 days later, Caulkins claims to remember nothing of the car or the driver. Listen to what he says when a sheriff's dispatcher calls him at home.
I towed a car from Vanderbilt to 111th Monday, a Cadillac. Do you remember it?
No.
Do you remember? She said it was near the cemetery.
Cemetery.
And the people at the cemetery are telling her you put somebody in the back of your vehicle and arrested them, and I don't show you arresting anybody.
I never arrested nobody.
Isn't that amazing? He's a seasoned veteran, and he couldn't remember 4 days later?
So you don't buy that?
No, it's not true. It's not true at all.
Wow. How much more damning could it be?
So it sucks. It sucks is really what it does. Hold on. Sorry. This is not working with me now.
So he ran the guy's information, even though he didn't say there was no guy.
Right. So here, okay. So obviously the car was towed. Somebody called to have it towed from the cemetery, from Dignity Memorial, Naples Memorial. So Marcia contacted the workers at the cemetery, and they told her they witnessed Caulkings pull him over and ask him for his identification, which he did not have, obviously. Then they stated that Caulkings patted Williams down and put him in the back of his patrol car before driving off with Williams. Caulkings then asked the cemetery employees if he could leave the Cadillac in the lot.
Wow.
Caulkings was witnessed returning to the cemetery between 15 and an hour later and moving the Cadillac from the parking spot to the side of the road.
Like himself?
The car keys himself. The car keys were found on the ground beside the car. Abandoned, quote unquote. Following the witness statement, the Williams family, let me tell you what they did. They got this witness statement and they had them sign affidavits. Marcia was not fucking around.
Yeah.
You better sign some affidavits.
Yeah.
So, following the witness statement, the Williams family repeatedly called the sheriff's department asking to speak to Caulkings. And I'm not going to play the audio for you, but he is talking to investigators later, and he's like, all they had to do was call me. All they had to do was call me. My wife and I agreed. They could just called me. My wife and I agreed. Upon being contacted by dispatch, Caulkings claimed to have no memory, as you could hear. He was like, no memory of making any arrests or having any cars towed on the day of Williams' disappearance, which again was only 4 days later. But he couldn't remember anything. Don't remember a white Cadillac that you called your buddies about. Anyway, he was contacted later and claimed to have a somewhat better recollection of his contact with Williams. Obviously, yes. So he had to go in and talk to his supervisor. So this is really about, 8 days later. And he's finally having to talk to some supervisors. And they asked him to submit an incident report. All of these things are fireable offenses. Anyway, I mean, you're not writing Caulkings' report states that he came in contact with Williams at 12:15 a.m. after noticing that his car was driving in distress. His uncle or his stepdad actually refutes that. He had to pick up the car and it ran fine for 23 miles. It was fine. Caulkings claimed he followed Williams to the cemetery. I thought he didn't remember.
Yeah.
To the cemetery parking lot, and that he asked for a ride, that Williams, Terrance, asked for a ride to a nearby Circle K convenience store because he was late for work. Williams did not work at the Circle K. He worked at Pizza Hut. According to Caulkings, after dropping him off at the Circle K, Williams told him the paperwork for the car was in the vehicle's glove compartment. Caulkings claimed that he returned to the Cadillac and discovered, I think it was 12:15 p.m. I'm sorry. Anyway, sorry. According to Caulkings, after dropping him off at the Circle K, Williams told him the paperwork for the car was in the vehicle's glove compartment. Caulkings claimed that he returned to the Cadillac and discovered that the proper registration was not in the car and that he felt deceived. So he called Circle K from his work-issued cell phone and asked to speak to Williams. The clerk allegedly, I'm doing all this like eyebrows speak, allegedly. You can't see me at home, but my eyebrows are moving. The clerk allegedly told him over the phone that Williams did not work there. According to the report, Caulkings then called in the license plate number and found that the plates were expired. However, further investigation revealed that phone and surveillance records didn't back up any of the shit that he was saying.
Shocking.
So he said he made a call using his work phone to the Circle K. Negative. Didn't happen. He dropped off Terrance at the Circle K. Negative. There is no video surveillance showing that any such thing occurred. Go. What
For
are you
a
thinking?
like, it's the cop doing all this, right?
Yes.
How dumb. Like, as a cop, like, you know there are surveillance. Witnesses called you to the funeral home. You knew they were still there, yet you do all this stuff in front of them, and then you claim you're doing all this stuff at a gas station where you know there's cameras. Like, it's like he wanted to be caught. Like, how? I mean, I just don't get it. Like, as a police officer, you would think he would be thinking of those things.
You would think. But negative. So the other thing is that, obviously the Circle K employees are like, no, nobody ever called. We know Terrance, and he never came. He wasn't in there that day, and that was it. So first he says, I don't know any cemetery white Cadillac. The other thing is, of those witnesses, one of them was actually an ex-police officer. One of the employees at the cemetery was an ex-police officer. And are you telling me that guy was lying? So you're just going around going, those people don't know what they're talking about. So, I mean, the Circle K employees were interviewed. No witnesses could place Caulkins or Williams there. And at this point, Marcia filed a complaint against Caulkins. But that was like, she should have just come and talked to me, his stupid ass. Okay, so, but here's the thing. So that's Terrance, right?
Yeah.
So a new lead in the case came when the Mexican consulate in Miami contacted Marcia and said, hey, we heard about your son. It sounds really similar to something that happened to an immigrant named Felipe Santos. And he's vanished as well. So, Mexican immigrant Felipe Santos had gone missing 3 months prior. So in October of 2003. And after Caulkins claimed he dropped him off at another Circle K 4 miles away.
Wait, so the
from
same
the Williams
cop was
Circle
involved
K.
in both of these cases? Wow.
Yep.
Great
So
police work.
Felipe Santos was born,
It's a great police work.
Oh, I know. So Felipe was born on January 1st, 1979. He is from Oaxaca, Mexico. He disappeared October 1st, 2003. He was 24 years old. He was 5'7". He had a wife, Apollonia, and they had just had a little baby.
Aww.
And so he was just a really happy guy. He was undocumented. And he was one of 5 brothers. And around the year 2000, he moved to the U.S. and started working as in the farm fields and construction sites in Florida. And so most of his money, though, went back to his family, which included his wife, daughter, and parents who lived in Oaxaca. So he was described as being humble and hardworking, and he loved basketball and soccer, or football. Mm-hmm. And he spoke fluent Spanish and very, very limited English. He was living near Immokalee. Sure, Floridians kill me now. Immokalee, Florida. So he was last seen October 1st, 2003 at approximately 6:30 in the morning. He was driving to work with his 2 brothers, and he was in a little car accident in Naples. And his wife had actually tried to get him to stay home because he wasn't feeling well. And he was like, no, I have to work. Amazing work ethic, but that probably caused him to get in a little fender bender. He was cited by Caulkins for reckless driving and driving without a license or insurance. So he had 3 citations and placed him in his patrol car. So here's the thing. So when the accident happened, the woman that he was in an accident with, when she was interviewed later, later, that she said that, he offered her money and it just said no police because he was worried that he was undocumented and he was going to go to jail and then they would deport him, and he was loving life, trying to pay for his kid. And, he was just a really happy dude.
Yeah.
He also was making some good decisions, but happened to make a poor decision. He had to have a car to get to work, but here we go. So he offered her money. When the cops showed up, the Caulkings had made mention that he was tired of pulling over people who didn't have valid driver's licenses.
Maybe he should
be a cop. And he made some comment like that to her, right? He said that to her. So wrote an accident report claiming Felipe's fault in the accident. And he says that he then left. No. He's saying that he was the last to leave the scene, but she's like, no. I saw Felipe get into his car and they left the scene, assuming that he was being arrested. No handcuffs. Neither one of them had any handcuffs, but they were put in the back of his patrol car. I wouldn't get in the back of a patrol car if I didn't have handcuffs on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't have to get like a translator or something since he didn't speak English very well.
Limited, I guess. Yeah, I mean.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, like how to do a search on a female, they had to have a female officer. So I'm surprised they didn't have to like some kind of translator to explain to him what was happening. Right.
And his brother was there. His brother was there at the scene. Anyway, so Santos's boss contacted the county jail to post bail because he was told, Felipe got picked up. And so he's like, no, I'm going to bail him out. And it was discovered that Santos never was even booked. So Caulkings claimed that he changed his mind about the arrest because Santos was polite and cooperative.
I'm sure.
Left him at the Circle K, that was 4 miles away from the other Circle K, and drove off. Now, here's the thing. What he said about Terrance Williams is that Terrance Williams was also polite and very well spoken. And he seemed clean cut except for the dreads, but he spoke well and seemed polite, just dripping in racism, all of that. Well spoken. Anyway, the other driver in the accident contradicted that report, stating that Caulkings was agitated about Santos's lack of documentation. He just stated he was tired of pulling over, this is in quotes, tired of pulling people over that didn't have licenses, she said. 2 weeks later, after Caulkings submitted his incident report, Santos's family filed a missing persons report as well as a complaint against Caulkings. An investigation cleared Caulkings of any wrongdoing. Santos has not been seen or heard from since, obviously. His wife, Apollonia, has questioned the quality of the investigation into the disappearance, citing the fact that she's still not been interviewed by investigators.
Wow.
So, further suspicion was cast on Caulkings when the recording of his call to dispatch requesting the tow of Williams' car, as I played for you earlier, revealed further conflicting statements. In the recording, you could hear Caulkings describe the car as abandoned and blocking the road. I mean, aside from the homey Cadillac. Anyway, this statement contradicted both his incident report and the witness statements, both of which reported that Caulkings himself moved the vehicle to its location to block the road. So Caulkings joked with the operator, maybe he's out in the cemetery. He'll be back and his car will be gone. Ha, 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 ha.
Wow.
He's also heard using inappropriate language during the call, describing the car as a, quote, homey Cadillac. Caulkings defended his misstatements to the operator, telling investigators that he was just joking around with a friend.
Just joshing.
Caulkings insisted he moved the car to assist the towing company as opposed to attempting to make it look abandoned, except you said it was abandoned and you put the keys on the frickin' road.
And then you forgot that you even did it.
And then 4 days later, you're like, what cemetery? Approximately 20 minutes later, at 1:12 p.m., Caulkings requested... Sorry. I'm back to Terrance Williams now.
Okay.
I didn't say that. So at approximately 20 minutes later, at 1:12 p.m., Caulkings requested a background check on Terrance Williams. So this is after the tow truck has already come for the car.
Okay.
And he supposedly dropped Terrance off. But 20 minutes later, he's calling in to request a background check on Terrance Williams, giving the 4/1/75 birth date, which was actually a very specific date that Williams himself had previously given the police when he was arrested. That was like his fake birth date.
Wow.
Like April Fool's, 4/1/75.
So there's
so
no way
like,
the police could have known that without actually having talked to him, right?
Mm-hmm. This contradicts Caulkins' earlier statement that he never knew Williams' last name or any other personal details. And you heard him say, Terrance Williams, common spelling, 4/1/75, black male.
What a jackass.
Okay, so I'm going to play a little bit of this podcast. Let me share my screen. I hate it when it does this. Hold on. And we're going to... I hit pause. I keep hitting pause and it's not listening to me.
Sorry.
All right. All right, here we go. I'm going to share my screen. So in this segment, he is talking to the investigators. They're questioning him about, he took 2 polygraph tests, all these things. So they're wanting to get details from him.
Okay.
Couple of things you're going to hear. He didn't lie about, we believe you that you took him to Circle K, that you didn't take him anywhere else. All we're asking you is, was he with you when you made that call to check his background? Was he in the car with you? That's all they want to know, and he will not answer that question. So
everybody thinks that there's some kind of foul play. The problem is that he didn't hear the sheriff's office is involved in it. We're trying to work with you to get this cleared up. It's not that we're sitting here trying to, nail you down to something. If we're going to nail you down, you've already stepped on it, I mean, even by your own thing, you say, hey, I didn't do things the right way and stuff like that. If anybody was really interested in taking disciplinary action, it probably would have happened by now. I mean, that's not what this is about. This is about just basically getting to the truth and making sure that what we're talking about is accurate. And we're just not getting there today.
Well, I don't know what else to tell you.
What about this? I mean, was Terrance with you when you ran his April 1st, 1975 date of birth over your Nextel? Because when you answer that question, Steve, you're just not being truthful about that.
You don't think so?
I know. I'm looking at it. I know you, Steve, and I've tested you before. And the last time you're in here and I asked you the question, did you drop him off at the Circle K? The answer to that question was yeah. And did you take him anywhere else other than the Circle K? And you said no to that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think you loaded him up in your car and drove him up to Lee County, and I don't think you drove him out of town. But when I ask you the question today about just that one thing, out of all the things I asked you in here today, was Terrance with you when you ran his April 1st, 1975 date of birth over your Nextel? That's the question that you can't answer. And when you do say no to it, you're not telling us the truth about it. I mean, I'm not in here trying to, get you to.
Well, maybe it's not a yes or no answer. Maybe it's an I don't know.
I can't see how it can be.
Or I can't remember. Or
can't be that way, because I'll tell you, like we talked about, it can't be that I can't remember, and it can't be that I don't know, because my question to you was, first of all, I said, well, how is it that you came by the date of birth? And you said it was one of 3 ways. Either Terrance told me, or I got it from the investigator, or it was on some documentation in the car. But see, I didn't ask you any of those questions because you're not certain about that information. When I asked you, I said, okay, you may be uncertain about that, Steve, but when I asked you the question, was Terrance with you, standing like you and I, right in front of you while you're sitting on the phone calling it in? In other words, you saying, hey, knucklehead, what's your date of birth? And you're sitting there calling it in, and he's saying, okay, my date of birth is April 1st, 1975. I kind of look at April 1st as being a joke date of birth. Well, but what I'm saying is,
it's impossible.
We can only ask you the question.
Well, it's impossible because detectives, I thought it already cleared me of not even using my Nextel, so
No.
No, I can't.
Detectives didn't clear you of not using your Nextel because we got a timeline here that says you were using your Nextel.
Well,
it says that at 13:12 calls dispatch to run Terrance Williams using April 1st, 1975 date of birth. There's a tape of that.
I know from dispatch.
So how is it that you didn't call him if you're using your Nextel?
I could have used any phone on this planet.
Bottom line is you called in at 13:12. And it wasn't called in from the station.
Why not?
Because they checked.
They checked.
They checked. You think Mike didn't check?
Can check each and every phone number from.
Why wouldn't they?
With a phone.
They're trying to clear you, Steve. They're trying to clear you, Steve. They're not trying to find you guilty of something. They're trying to clear you. But you keep giving them half truths and you keep going back and visiting things. You even told Joe. The first thing you told Joe was that right after you left that car, you went right down to look for him. That's what you told Joe the very first time you talked to him. Joe Johnson.
Let's see where.
It's not a matter of seeing it, Steve. It's a matter of it happening.
You can't put me on every minute what I did that day, and that's.
We can say that at 12:50 the tow truck came. We can say at 13:01 you cleared the call, and we can say at 13:12 you called dispatch to run Terrance Williams' name as April 1st, 1975.
Huh?
We can say that, can't we? So if you're telling me that you didn't get this until you went back to Vito and got it from him, that ain't the case. Because it would have taken you a hell of a lot longer than that. I do. Think about where you were and where you had to drive to. Then you got to go in and get this information from Vito. Then you got to get on your Nextel and call it. That just doesn't make sense. I mean, it's that obvious.
No, it's not obvious.
It is
a couple
obvious.
of minutes to get to the substation from there. It takes it's not that far away.
And then we're pulling Vito into this. And Vito's going to tell us what? That he ran the name right then and there when you walked into the station. As soon as you walked in the station, you went right to Vito and you said, hey, run this guy. That didn't happen.
Well,
Steve, you got to look at it. I mean, I'm not sitting in here trying to get you to tell us something that we don't know. We want you to tell us the truth about it so that when you're answering the questions, not to this.
Told the truth right along.
You told the truth about some things. I mean, I'll give you that. You told the truth about some things, but not about this.
About everything.
No, you haven't, because the first thing you told Joe was that you went looking for him. Then you're telling Mike that you didn't go looking for him. You went back to the station before you went up to the Circle K.
I went to the Circle K.
You're backing up. You keep backing up.
I went to the Circle K. I went to the substation right along to where I was going in the first place.
So you're saying you left the tow truck and went to the Circle K, or you're saying you left the tow truck and you went to the station? Because it can't be both. It can only be one or the other. There's just not that much time in the world.
We just got to figure out which one was which first.
Well, you got to tell us, because you know what it is.
He's the most ridiculous person. Jesus Christ. Just say that you did it.
Is that not the most, it's like infuriating and hysterical all at the same, like it's infuriating on so many different levels. Like
it's infuriating that the police department let this shit go on for so long because it was so clear he was lying. I mean,
you guys couldn't see me, but like I was like, my head is blowing up every time he spoke because he was like, well, that's not how it happened. Well, that's what you said. Like
that's what the reports say. Like, how are you going to argue with factual things? Like, it's not an opinion.
But you could hear it when he said, well, we just got to figure out what happened first. And they're like, you have to tell us. No, we're not going to figure that out for you. Really, they're like he is hoping that they're going to give him some grace for being a cop.
Yeah.
And they are. They are. In that entire interview is the detective just blah, 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 blah. You're lying, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying. And he's like, oh, well, yes, it's just impossible. We're never going to figure it out. We're not going to, if that were anybody else, if this were Law and Order SVU, bum, bum, you know what I mean? Just like that shit would not fly.
Yeah.
But because it's a cop, they're like, listen, you're telling the truth to Joe. You're telling the truth to Mike. You said this is such and such. And I believe all that. But this one piece, you said you didn't know his name or his birthday. And then all of a sudden you have it. So like, but it's not enough. It's not enough. Unfortunately, it's not enough. So hold on. Let me get back to my notes. I'm sorry. Like I'm getting off. I'm like flustered.
I just don't understand
verklempt.
how this is an unsolved case. I feel like I've just listening to the audio.
We
I feel
solved
like
it.
I've solved it already. Like I'm not sure what they're confused about here. He obviously killed the man or men, both men.
Because the main person of interest is a police officer.
Let me guess, no body, no crime.
Nobody, no crime. So the Department of Law Enforcement and the FBI were called to work on the case, but no body, no crime. They had GPS trackers on the man's car. They were hoping he would veer off his normal routine and go maybe visit some crazy space. Like he wouldn't know that much.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, he did. So he never went anywhere. That proved useless. They had cadaver dogs to survey his car and they found nothing. They did their due diligence to, as far as I know, they did their due diligence. But they really sat on this a lot for a long time. It took all these people saying, I have a report. And the thing is that there was also people that came forward later out of fear. There was a woman who came out and she was like, I was maced and chased by him and a couple of other cops. And they were like, what's your... You know, who's your parole officer? I am not on parole. Like, just because I'm black, they were calling her the N-word, effing N-word, and they were horribly torturing this poor woman. And she really felt like she was going to die.
Yeah.
And he was a part of that. So, I mean, what's happening at this Collier County Sheriff's Department? That's the real horror. So the case went, other than the obvious lead of the obvious suspect in the case, there were no other leads. In 2012, when a number of national programs began covering the case, including Disappeared, and Anderson Cooper 360, my Anderson Cooper, love him. And Dateline. In 2017, the ID series Deadline, Crime with Tamron Hall. Oh, hope I didn't pronounce her name wrong. Investigated the disappearances, and entertainment mogul Tyler Perry went on Al Sharpton's MSNBC's talk show to discuss the disappearances, offering a $200,000 reward for information in connection with the cases. He was all about it. He was like, obviously, there was some malfeasance and there needs to be something going on. So a wrongful death lawsuit was also filed by the Williams family by court-appointed arbitrator. But court-appointed arbitrator Robert Doyle Jr. found for the defense. He dismissed the case. Like that case could not proceed. Doyle ruled that the Terrance Williams estate's counsel did not demonstrate, quote, with more persuasive and convincing force and effect of the evidence, end quote, that Caulkings was responsible for Williams' disappearance and presumed death, which is such bullshit. The sealed arbitration ruling was filed on November 24th, 2020, and neither party moved for a new trial during the ensuing 20 days. So the ruling was unsealed on December 21st, 2020. The Estates Council, Terrance Williams' Estates Council, moved for relief from judgment and for a trial, but the motions were denied. Judgment was entered on February 2nd, 2021. So a couple of different theories other than we obviously fucking know who did it. Come on, kids. Say it with me. Steve Caulkings. Anyway, so one popular theory for the disappearances is the Starlight Tour theory. I had never heard of this.
I don't even know what that is.
So it's a pretty shitty theory. It's a pretty shitty thing. So it actually originated in Canada, in Saskatchewan, and describes the practice. I said that right. And describes the practice of police driving individuals to like the outskirts of town or the outskirts of the city limits, and then abandoning them on their way home. Just
what's the point?
There you go. Walk home. Well, the cruelty is the point.
Oh,
the cruelty is the point.
Home?
Right. So the practice came to light in 2000 when an Aboriginal Canadian man named Daryl Knight reported being picked up by police after leaving a party and driven outside of town and dropped off in a rural area in freezing conditions. He survived after finding a nearby power plant staffed by a security guard. Good night. Ugh. The next morning, another Aboriginal man named Rodney Neistas was found frozen to the ground near where Knight was dropped off. Lawrence Wegner, also Aboriginal, was found deceased weeks later in the exact same area. According to Russ Sabo, Saskatoon's new police chief, evidence exists that similar drop-offs have gone on since at least the 1970s. A number of podcasts have explored the theory that Santos and Williams were dropped off in nearby Everglades and died of exposure or other perils. Except that may be true. Any of these more recent coverings, podcasts covering this, there's no. This isn't. It's not really a theory, but that's a theory. Another theory is that they were running away from their lives. They had trouble with the law. They were here illegally. They owed a lot of money. They didn't have this, that, and the other. All these things. They didn't have these perfect lives. That is not saying that they deserved any harm to come to them. You know, you could have you still have a right to a healthy life, even if you rob somebody.
What would be the chance that they would both end up with the same cop in the same circumstance? So if they were running away from their lives?
If you hear it from Caulkings, it was just a really unlucky coincidences.
Oh, okay. They don't have GPS trackers on police vehicles. They couldn't track where his car had gone that night.
No, not before. This is 2003, 4.
Not that long ago. I
didn't have GPS until that was like the Garmin in 2007.
I don't know. I just think that they would have some way to track where the hell a police officer's going on his shift in case he disappears.
So things did change, though, after, I agree with you, but after all of this happened, it became a policy now that anytime somebody is put into your vehicle, you have to, do the proper forms, whether or not you're detaining them or anything like that. It has to be documented. So they did change some things, but thanks to good old Caulkings, and he ended up, he was like, man, this place, like all this stuff, all this drama, I just want to fight for my innocence. or maybe I'll just get out of here. And so he moved to Iowa. I'm like, how guilty are you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
of all places to
effing guilty are you? Like, you're gonna move to Iowa. So to get away from it all. And that, my friends, is our story. We don't have a question of the week because F it.
So neither case was solved. Neither bodies have ever been found.
Correct.
Oh.
And, do you go to the Everglades and do you do a look through the swamp for these two gentlemen? I mean, who's going to do that?
Yeah.
There's not like an aquasearch. What is it called?
Aquasearch.
I feel like that was Equifax. When I was like thinking it in my head, I was like,
well, when you said Aquasearch, I was thinking of like
Aquaman
Aquaman just showing up and like searching the Everglades.
Dun, 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 dun. No, but I mean, like, we searched for Chris in the water.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought that. I was like, is it equestrian?
Yeah.
Yeah. We should know that.
One of us did know that. I know that much. I don't know a lot, but I know that.
I'm having an IPFNA. That's so awesome. So that's my story. I seriously I watched every single news piece on it. It was just, I loved seeing Marcia. She is a formidable force.
She didn't kill the cop, honestly.
She is. Did you hear her? Like, can you believe that? And she's so calm and cool and collected in amidst all of that pain and sorrow. And it's just really, really sad. I can't imagine having an adult child of mine just disappear. I can't imagine a child disappearing, period. But it definitely gives me pause. When we do these, we always talk about this, Ashley. We do it all the time. We try to give our victims some respect to what they deserve. And so, again, if you have anything on Felipe Santos or Terrance Williams, to contact the Collier Sheriff's Department. There's also a tips line out of Florida. If you have any information, I know it's a long shot, but maybe.
Has there been any update on the police officer that moved to Iowa? I have a friend that lives in Iowa, actually.
Oh, well, he's there living his best life. I don't know.
I mean, like, if random people started disappearing in Iowa, like, I didn't know if there was some crazy story about Iowa now after he moved there, or if he just gave up his life of crime, became a farmer, or whatever you do in Iowa. I don't know. That's Idaho. I don't know what you do in Iowa.
I don't know what you do in Iowa either.
I'm sorry for anyone that's listening in Iowa. We just don't know. What do you do? Tell us. Tell us what you do in Iowa.
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. I had a friend, my best friend Amy, she lived there, and she said it was really cold. She really liked it, though. She did like it.
One of my best friends from high school lives there, but he doesn't ever talk about doing anything there. He talks about, like, playing music or whatever in his garage. He doesn't talk about, like, things happening in Iowa.
I don't know. Do we talk about what's happening here in Texas?
I feel like
we have NASA.
I feel like a lot of people know what's happening in Houston. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't ever hear about Iowa, like, ever.
Yeah, we do make the national news a lot. I don't know, not always for good things. If you do have a tip, there's a Crime Stoppers USA number 1-800-222-TIPS. TIPS. Tips.
Yeah.
And it's anonymous. But, call that shit in. If you know something about this cop, call it in. That's my story. It went a little quickly. Sorry, everybody. I apologize when it's too long, and then I apologize when it's too short.
It was like over an hour. What are you talking?
There's a happy medium. 1 hour and 58 seconds. All right. Well, okay, everybody. Do you want to tell the kids at home where they can find us?
We're on. Well, if you're listening, you know where to find us. But we're on all of the things, so you can share it with your friends, whatever platform they listen to. Don't let them tell you they don't have iTunes or whatever, because we're on everything, everywhere. We're also on Facebook,
Spotify. Are we on iHeartRadio?
We are on every single podcasting platform that I know of.
Okay.
And then we're on Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, Amazon Music. We're on all of the things. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Untapped, soon to be TikTok. You know, where the hip kids are.
Can you do us a favor? Can you review us?
Review us, yes, or subscribe. If it doesn't allow for reviews, like Spotify doesn't do reviews, and Spotify, like there's a lot of stuff going on with Spotify where they're trying to like suppress independent podcasts now and just promote theirs. So it would really help us if you do subscribe to us. Even if you don't listen to us on Spotify, just subscribe to us. Thanks.
Subscribe. Smash that subscribe button.
Yeah, follow us everywhere. Send us messages.
But yeah, send us messages. Since I didn't get any messages about a question of the week, so I didn't put one up.
We didn't get any response to if people are tired of listening to us talk, so I'm going to take that as a no. So
it's your fault.
People listened to the episode, so they just chose not to tell us that they were tired of our shit. So we're just going to keep talking. Anyways.
All right. Well, I love you guys. I don't know about this one.
I do. And next week I'm going to do a UFO story, I believe. We haven't done one in a while. I heard a really cool one, so that's what I'm doing.
I am so excited.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. So until next week, please take care of yourselves, be safe, and be kind to one another. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.